The first few years were really great, and then the last 2 years my health started to decline. I noticed I was anxious, I was having mood imbalances, I started to have hypothyroid issues, my digestion was off, I found myself to have low energy, and all my blood test results were coming back with having anemia, low B vitamins, and a lot of different challenges. And so it was interesting because I looked at my stress levels, I looked at maybe I was working out too much, I evaluated my whole life, and while there were obviously imbalances like we all have, one of the main things that kept coming up by all of my practitioners and my coworkers, my family and my friends, were, Sam, maybe you should try integrating meat into your life again. And I did not want to hear that. I was so against the idea of eating meat because I identified with being vegan. This was a part of my identity. This is who I was at the time.
I continued with that for 14 years of my life, from about the time that I was 13 to 27. And no, I did not feel good for most of those years, if at all. But the really bad health side effects started, I would say, at about year 11. So I avoided the really bad ones for a long time, but I got ulcerative colitis in, I want to say 2017, and that was probably about the 10th or 11th year that I was vegan. I started having really bad pain after I would eat. I would have a low fever almost every day. I would get diarrhea after I would eat just about anything. And then the worst thing was having blood in my stool, which if you're familiar with colitis, then you know that that's like the biggest part of it, is that you go to the bathroom and there's a ton of blood in the toilet. Sorry to be frank and, graphic, but that's obviously not good. And if that starts happening to you, you're probably going to be very concerned, which I was. But having, the vegan mindset, I thought it would get better on its own. I thought my diet would heal my colitis.
I was basically just pumping my body full of carbs and sugars, and not really balancing it out with any protein and fat. I mean, when you look at the macronutrients of like vegetables and fruits, like that's just what it is. And my body had like completely had enough, and I actually developed like an insulin resistance from being like a whole foods, plant-based vegan.
My digestion was non-existent, like it's either one way or the other, or vomiting pretty much every single meal. Like nothing was going down, and if it was going down, it wasn't going down nice. It was undigested. If that's too much information, just close your camera now. Also, I couldn't sleep. I had crazy brain fog. I mean, okay, my body was here and my head was somewhere there.
And I first kind of went to, cleansing. What have I been doing wrong? Maybe I have some kind of toxic chemicals in me. Maybe there's mold in the house, right? So process of elimination. And so for 3 months, I went on this pretty hardcore, part of it was a cleanse, right? So it was like a 2-week hardcore, awful, I never want to do it again, kind of cleanse. And then from there, just kind of getting away from that, but then just being very, very clean with my eating. And so, of course, through those 3 months, I lost a ton of weight, which definitely didn't help anything. And my symptoms were just as bad, if not worse, after that. And it got to this point where I just really wanted to give up, because I couldn't make it through much of the day. I couldn't do much of anything. And, a lot of the symptoms were really awful, but one of the top tier ones was the dizziness and just not being able to think or see.
My digestion had always been really bad eating vegan, but I think I was at least managing those things this entire time because I had been smoking cannabis or taking hemp the whole time I was plant-based. So I think those things were keeping my inflammation down enough where I didn't experience any pain like that. On the day of the attack, I had very typical meals, but by 4 p.m. that day, I was literally like collapsing on the floor. I had to like crawl from room to room. I couldn't get up. There was one point where I had to pee and I had to crawl to the bathroom, and then it took me over a half hour to like squeeze pee out. It was insane. And I wanted to go to the hospital initially, but I'm not an idiot. I knew it was something that I ate, and I knew I had to just do some research and try to go on some sort of elimination diet to figure out what could have been causing it. So I tried an elimination diet where I essentially took out FODMAPs, and I was also trying to take out as much fiber as possible, but things weren't improving, and the more research I was doing, the more I figured out that I was exhibiting symptoms of Crohn's disease.
Within 2 weeks, all right, of me eating this meat, my gums, I mean, I can show you I don't think anyone wants to get that deep into my gums, but they've stopped bleeding. Like, I was doing so much stuff and I kind of thought I'd got a handle on it. I was flossing, I've got this irrigation thing, I've got this special like probiotic toothpaste. I was doing the most. But within 2 weeks of eating that meat, I can actually before I couldn't even do that on my gums without them bleeding. Now, I mean, I can brush, I can floss, it's amazing, it's absolutely amazing. And for the first time in years, I am not aching from head to toe.
And then if I would eat, I would feel better in 20 minutes. But of course, 2 hours later, I was right back where I started. And you get shaky and sweaty and you can't figure out what's wrong. You just know that you have to eat. I mean, your cravings for food are just insane all the time. And that's why. It's because you're not keeping that blood sugar stable. So that was problem number one. But that a lot of times will go away. If you end up understanding what you've done and you take on some version of a low-carb diet, you can at least clear that problem from your plate. And my problem was I did it so long that I'm sort of stuck forever eating a very low carbohydrate level because I don't want to become insulin dependent, as a diabetic. So I have to be really, really careful about that one. But the more, the longer term damage I did is I ended up with degenerative disc disease in my spine. So my spine's basically coming to pieces.
And slowly but surely, I didn't necessarily associate these things with my diet at all, but I was experiencing more depression, much higher levels of anxiety than I had ever experienced before. I was tired all the time, woke up feeling achy, like my bones, it was like my muscles and bones would hurt. I would also feel indigestion and extreme bloatedness. And it got to a point where I literally would eat 2-3 bites of a meal, feel so full, and couldn't eat anymore. And I was like, what the? I was kind of hungry, but also not, because I couldn't fit anything else in my body. That's what it felt like. And I was like, this isn't right.
By the way, you'll only resonate with this if you've been through it. Because there are people out there that are making fun, there are vegans out there making fun of people that no longer are vegan. Which means either you're denying how shit you feel, or you haven't yet quite got to that stage, or you're lying.